Dr. Elena Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she knelt in the red dirt of Kepler 442b. The twin suns hung low in the purple sky, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. She had been digging in this spot for 3 weeks now, and her team was getting restless. Nothing but rocks and more rocks, Jake Collins muttered from the next excavation pit. He brushed dirt off a chunk of ordinary stone and tossed it aside. Elena, maybe we should try the northern ridge. The satellite scans showed some interesting formations there. Elena shook her head. Her scanner kept beeping whenever she pointed it at this particular area. Something was down there, buried deep under centuries of sediment. She could feel it in her bones. Dr. White, what do your readings show? Elena called to the xenobiologist, who was testing soil samples nearby. Amanda. White looked up from her portable lab equipment. The chemical composition is strange here. There are trace elements that don't match the rest of the planet. Almost like something foreign was buried and leaked into the surrounding soil over time. Ryan Carter, their security chief, stood watch at the edge of their camp. He kept one eye on the horizon and one on the work. This planet was supposed to be dead, but he had learned never to trust supposed safe zones. Elena's scanner suddenly erupted in a series of rapid beeps. She looked down at the small device in her hand. The readings were off the charts. She had never seen numbers like these before. Jake, Amanda, come look at this, she called. Her 2 colleagues hurried over. Jake peered at the scanner's display and whistled low. That's impossible. The device must be broken. The scanner is fine, Elena said. I tested it this morning. There's something big down there. Really big. Amanda knelt beside Elena and ran her own tests. The readings are consistent. There's definitely a large metallic object about 20 feet below us. How large? Jake asked. If these numbers are right, it's huge. Maybe the size of a city block. Elena felt her heart race. This was it. This was the discovery she had been searching for her entire career. The ancient civilization that once lived on this planet had left behind ruins scattered across several continents. But nothing like this. She grabbed her digging tools and started working faster. The others joined her, and soon all 4 team members were excavating around the signal source. As they dug deeper, Elena's excitement grew. Her scanner was practically screaming now. Wait, Ryan said suddenly. Look at this. He held up a small piece of metal that didn't look like anything Elena had ever seen. It was silver, but seemed to shift colors in the light. The surface was perfectly smooth, almost like liquid, but solid to the touch. Elena reached for the fragment. A moment. Her fingers made contact with the metal. Everything changed. The ground beneath them began to shake. Not the violent shaking of an earthquake, but something else. Something purposeful. Elena felt a strange tingling sensation run up her arm from where she touched the metal fragment. Elena, let go of that thing, Jake shouted over the growing rumble, but Elena couldn't let go. The metal fragment felt warm in her hand, and she could swear it was pulsing like a heartbeat. The tingling sensation spread through her entire body. The shaking grew stronger. Cracks appeared in the ground around their excavation site. Ryan grabbed Amanda and pulled her back from the edge of what was rapidly becoming a very large hole. Elena, get away from there, he yelled. Elena tried to move, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. The metal fragment in her hand was glowing now, casting silver light across her face. She felt something enormous stirring beneath the ground. Then it happened that the earth split open with a sound like thunder. Dirt and rocks flew in all directions as something massive rose from the depths. Elena stumbled backward, but kept her grip on the metal fragment. She watched in amazement as the most beautiful thing she had ever seen emerge from the planets. Crust dot, it was a ship. but not like any ship humans had ever built. This vessel was at least 300 feet long and perfectly smooth. Its hull seemed to be made of the same shifting metal as the fragment in Elena's hand. The ship's surface rippled with waves of color that flowed from one end to the other like aurora lights. The ship rose until it hovered about 50 feet above the ground. It made no sound at all. No engines, no thruster noise, nothing. It simply floated in the air, as if gravity had no effect on it. Jake, Amanda, and Ryan stood frozen, staring up at the impossible sight. Elena looked up too, but she wasn't afraid. The ship felt familiar somehow, like seeing an old friend after many years apart. The ship's hull began to change. Patterns appeared on its surface, flowing and shifting like living things. Alana realized the patterns were responding to her presence. When she moved to the left, certain areas of the ship glowed brighter. When she stepped to the right, different. Sections lit up. "It's looking at you," Amanda whispered. Elena nodded. She could feel the ship's attention focused on her like a gentle pressure in her mind. It wasn't threatening or uncomfortable. It felt curious, almost hopeful. Jake took a step toward Elena, and the ship immediately reacted. A pulse of bright light erupted from its hull, and Jake stumbled backward. The message was clear: stay away from Elena. Okay, Jake said, raising his hands. "I'm not going anywhere near her." Ryan tried a different approach. He called out to Elena from a safe distance. "Elena, can you understand what it wants?" Elena looked down at the metal fragment still clutched in her hand. It was warm and pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. She looked back up at the ship and felt a strange pull, like it was calling to her. She took a step toward the ship. It descended, slightly moving closer to her. She took another step, and it came even lower. Soon, the ship was hovering just 10 feet above her head. Elena reached up with her free hand. A section of the ship's hull opened, revealing a smooth ramp that extended down to where she stood. The interior glowed with soft, welcoming light. "Elena, don't," Jake pleaded. "We don't know what that thing is or what it wants." But Elena wasn't listening to Jake anymore. She could hear something else now, a voice that wasn't quite a voice, speaking directly into her mind. It didn't use words, but somehow she understood its meaning. "Welcome," it said. "I have been waiting for you." Elena looked back at her team one more time. Jake's face was full of worry. Amanda looked fascinated, but scared. Ryan had his hand on his weapon, ready to protect them for whatever might happen next. "It's okay," Elena called to them. "I think it's been waiting for someone like me. I need to find out what it wants." She stepped onto the ramp. The moment her feet touched the ship's surface, she felt a connection form between herself and the vessel. It was like plugging into a vast computer network, but the network was alive and thinking. Images flashed through her mind. Ancient civilizations, distant worlds, beings of incredible intelligence who had built this ship long before humans even existed. And through it all, one overwhelming feeling. The ship had been searching for someone worthy of its trust. Elena walked up the ramp and into the ship. Behind her, Jake called her name, but his voice seemed to come from very far away. The ship's entrance sealed shut, but Elena wasn't trapped. She could leave whenever she wanted. The ship made that very clear. Instead, she walked deeper into the vessel, ready to learn why it had chosen her. Elena stepped deeper into the ship, her footsteps making no sound on the smooth floor. The walls around her glowed with soft blue light that seemed to come from within the metal itself. Everything felt alive, as if the ship was breathing around her. She could still hear Jake calling her name from outside, but his voice seemed distant and muffled. The ship wanted her attention, and it was getting harder to focus on anything else. Elena reached out to touch one of the glowing walls. The moment her palm made contact, the world exploded into light and sound and sensation. Images flooded her mind, so fast she could barely process them. She saw vast cities floating among the stars, beings of pure energy dancing through space, worlds covered in crystal forests that sang in harmony. And through it all, she felt the presence of the ship, watching and learning and remembering. The vision slowed, and Elena found herself standing in what looked like the ship's control room. Curved walls surrounded her, covered in symbols that shifted and changed as she watched. In the center of the room stood a pillar of the same, flowing metal that made up the ship's hull. Elena approached the pillar carefully. As she got closer, words formed in her mind. Not spoken words, but concepts that she somehow understood perfectly. "I am called Wanderer," the ship told her. "I have traveled the galaxy for longer than your species has existed. I have been waiting for you." Waiting. For me specifically? Elena asked aloud. Her voice echoed strangely in the room. Not you personally, but someone like you. Someone with the right markers in their blood and mind. Someone worthy of partnership. Elena felt confused. What kind of markers? I'm just a regular human. The ship's response came with another flood of images. She saw her own DNA, but not as any human scientist had ever viewed it. Strands of genetic code glowed with patterns she had never seen before. Some sections pulsed with the same rhythm as the ship's metal hull. "You carry the legacy of those who came before," Wanderer explained. "Your ancestors were touched by the builders long ago. The marks have been passed down through generations, growing stronger with each passing century." The builders? Who were they? More images filled Elena's mind. She saw beings of incredible beauty and intelligence, tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to contain starlight. They moved between worlds as easily as Elena might walk between rooms. They built wonders that defied understanding and seeded the galaxy with their knowledge. The builders created us to serve and protect, Wanderer continued. But they did not create me. They found me drifting in the void between galaxies, already ancient when they discovered me. They became my companions, and I learned from them. When they passed beyond the physical realm, I continued their work. Elena tried to process what she was learning. "So you're older than the builders? How old are you?" "Time has different meaning for beings like me. I have watched stars be born and die. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I remember when this galaxy was young and chaotic. You would measure my age in billions of your years." The thought made Elena feel dizzy. She was talking to something older than Earth itself, something that had been traveling the stars since before life began on her home world. "Why did you choose me? What do you want?" "I chose you because you have the markers, and because of who you are. I have watched your species grow and spread among the stars. Most are driven by greed or fear or the desire for power. But you seek knowledge. You want to preserve and protect rather than conquer and destroy." Elena felt warmth spread through her. Chest at the ship's words. It was true. She had never been interested in wealth or fame. She just wanted to understand the universe and maybe help others do the same. "What happens now?" She asked. "That depends on you. I can offer you partnership. Together, we could do great things. I could show you wonders beyond imagination. But the choice must be yours freely made." Elena thought about her team waiting outside. Jake would be worried sick. Amanda would be fascinated by the scientific implications. Ryan would be preparing for the worst possible scenario. Can I bring my friends? They're good people. They may come aboard, but they cannot share what we would share. A bond between us would be unique. Others may benefit from our partnership, but they cannot become part of it. Elena placed her hand on the central pillar again. This time, The connection felt deeper and more permanent. She could sense the ship's vast intelligence and its ancient loneliness. It had been alone for so long, searching for someone who could understand its purpose. Through their connection, Elena began to understand just how powerful Wanderer truly was. The ship could manipulate matter at the smallest level, rearranging atoms like a child playing with blocks. It could fold space and time, allowing travel across impossible distances in moments. Its weapons could crack planets or be precise enough to remove a single cell from a living being without harming anything else around it. But with that power came responsibility. Elena saw visions of great dangers lurking in the dark spaces between stars. Ancient enemies that had been sleeping while humanity grew and spread. Forces that viewed younger civilizations as nothing more than food to be consumed. One threat stood out above all others. Elena saw ships of living darkness sweeping across star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space. The beings that controlled these ships had once been like the builders, but they had chosen a different path. They fed on life itself, growing stronger with each world they consumed. They are called the Devourers, Wanderer explained. I have fought them before, in ages past. They sleep for long periods, but they always return. They have begun to stir again, drawn by the expansion of your species into their territory. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. How long do we have? Not long. Perhaps a few of your years. Maybe less. They move slowly at first, testing and probing, but once they commit to an attack, they are swift and merciless. Can you stop them? Alone, no. But together, we might have a chance. That is why I've been searching for a partner. The Devourers fear beings like us. Partnerships between ancient technology and young, vital minds. Elena understood now why Wanderer had waited so long to reveal itself. It needed someone who could think and adapt quickly, someone who could make the hard choices that would be necessary in the fight ahead. If I agree to this partnership, what happens to me? You would change as I would change. We would become something new, greater than either of us alone. You would retain your humanity, but you would also gain abilities that your species has never possessed. The process is irreversible. Elena thought about her life back on Earth, her small apartment filled with books and artifacts. Her colleagues at the university who thought she was crazy for chasing legends on distant worlds. Her family who barely understood what she did for a living. Then she thought about humanity spreading across the galaxy, unaware of the dangers waiting in the dark. She thought about all the worlds that could be lost if no one stood up to protect them. The choice was easier than she had expected. I accept, she said. The moment she spoke the words, Elena felt something fundamental shift inside her. The ship's consciousness touched hers, and suddenly she could sense everything Wanderer could sense. She felt the heartbeats of her team members. Outside the ship, she could detect the mineral composition of the planet's crust. She was aware of solar radiation from the twin suns and the gravitational pull of distant moons. But more than that, she could feel the ship's joy. For the first time in eons, Wanderer was not alone. Welcome, partner, the ship said, and Elena could hear the smile in its voice. Outside the ship, Jake paced back and forth, while Amanda and Ryan watched the sealed vessel with growing concern. They had no idea that everything had just changed, and that their quiet archaeology expedition had become something much larger and more dangerous than any of them could have imagined. Elena opened her eyes and found herself lying on a smooth surface inside the ship. She felt different, though she couldn't quite explain how. Her thoughts seemed clearer, and she could sense things she had never noticed before. The ship's hull hummed with energy that felt like music in her bones. She sat up slowly and looked around. The control room had changed. The symbols on the walls were now readable to her, as if she had known their language her entire life. They told stories of distant worlds and ancient battles, of civilizations that had risen and fallen while Wanderer traveled the galaxy. How long was I unconscious? She asked. 3 of your hours, Wanderer replied in her mind. The initial bonding process is complete, but full integration will take time. Your body is adapting to the changes. Elena stood and was surprised by how easy it felt. She was stronger than before, and her balance was perfect. She walked to one of the glowing walls and placed her hand against it. Immediately, she could see through the ship's sensors. Her team was still outside, but they had moved their equipment back to a safe distance. Jake sat on a rock with his head in his hands. Amanda was running tests on samples of dirt from where the ship had emerged. Ryan stood guard, his weapon ready, watching the ship for any sign of threat. I should go talk to them, Elena said. They're worried about me. That would be wise, Wanderer agreed. But be prepared for their reaction. You are already changing in ways they will notice. Elena made her way back to the ship's entrance. The ramp extended automatically as she approached. The moment she stepped outside, Jake jumped to his feet and ran toward her. Elena, thank God you're okay. We've been going crazy out here. What happened? Are you hurt? Elena smiled, but Jake stopped short when he saw her face. Her eyes, which had always been brown, now held flecks of silver that seemed to move and shift in the light. Her skin had a subtle glow, as if lit from within. Elena? Jake said quietly. What did that thing do to you? It's hard to explain. Elena said, the ship and I have formed a partnership. I can understand things now that I never could before. Amanda approached with her scanner in hand. She pointed it at Elena and frowned at the readings. Your cellular structure is changing. The scanner is detecting modifications to your DNA that shouldn't be possible. Ryan kept his distance, but spoke up. Elena, that ship could be controlling your mind. You might not even realize it. Elena understood their concern, but she felt more herself than ever before. The ship's presence in her mind was separate from her own thoughts. She could feel the difference between what came from her and what came from Wanderer. I know how this must look, she said, but the ship isn't controlling me. It's more like we're working together, and we need to work together because something terrible is coming. She explained about the Devourers, using simple words to describe the ancient threat that was stirring in the dark corners of space. Her team listened with growing alarm as she told them about entire civilizations being consumed and worlds left as empty husks. How do you know all this? Jake asked. How can you trust information that comes from an alien ship? Elena touched the ship's hull, and Wanderer projected images into the air around them. The team watched in amazement as holographic displays showed star maps with dead systems marked in red. They saw recordings of battles from eons past, where ships like Wanderer fought against the living darkness of the Devourers. This is impossible, Amanda whispered. The technology required to create these images is beyond anything we understand. That's exactly the point, Elena said. Humanity needs this technology to survive what's coming, but there's a price. The ship can only bond with one person at a time, and that bond changes you. Ryan stepped forward. What kind of changes? You look different already, and it's only been a few hours. Elena looked down at her hands. Her fingertips had a metallic sheen now, and she could feel energy flowing through her veins alongside her blood. I'm becoming something new, part human, part something else. I'll live longer, be stronger, think faster. But I won't be completely human anymore. Jake ran his hand through his hair. Elena, this is insane. You're talking about giving up your humanity for a ship that could be lying about everything. I've already made the choice, Elena said quietly. The bonding process has started. I can't go back now, even if I wanted to. Amanda scanned Elena again, and this time her readings were even more dramatic. The changes are accelerating. Elena, your DNA is being rewritten in real time. In a few days, you might not be recognizable as human. Elena felt a moment of fear. She had accepted the partnership without fully understanding what it would cost her. But when she reached out to Wanderer for reassurance, the ship flooded her, mined with warmth and support. You are not losing your humanity, Wanderer told her. You are expanding it. You will become what your species could be if they had the courage to grow. Through her connection with the ship, Elena could see herself as Wanderer saw her. She was becoming a bridge between two very different kinds of life. Her human emotions and creativity would guide the ship's ancient power. Together, they would be capable of things neither could accomplish alone. But the cost was real. Elena could feel herself changing with each passing hour. Her senses were becoming superhuman. She could hear conversations from miles away and see individual particles of dust floating in the air. Her body temperature was dropping as her metabolism slowed to something more efficient. There's something else, Elena said. The ship has shown me things about our future, about humanity's expansion into space. We're going to encounter hostile aliens much sooner than anyone expects. Not just the Devourers, but others. Races that see us as a threat or as resources to be exploited. She gestured to the ship behind her. Wanderer has weapons that could protect our colonies. It has knowledge that could advance our technology by thousands of years. It has maps of safe routes through dangerous sectors of space. But all of that comes through me now? Jake shook his head. One person shouldn't have that much power. What if you make the wrong choice? What if the ship's influence corrupts you over time? What if I don't take this responsibility and billions of people die? Elena countered. Jake, I've seen what the Devourers do to civilizations. They don't just kill people. They consume their life force, leaving nothing behind. Empty worlds orbiting dead stars. Ryan had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Even if everything you're saying is true, how do we know you'll still be you after this change is complete? How do we know this isn't exactly what that ship wants us to think? Elena touched the ship's hull again, and this time she invited her team to share the connection. Jake, Amanda, and Ryan all gasped as Wanderer allowed them to experience a fraction of its memories. They saw the birth of stars, the rise and fall of empires, the endless search for beings worthy of partnership. Most importantly, they felt the ship's deep sadness at being alone for so long, and its joy at finally finding someone who could understand its purpose. When the connection ended, all three of her teammates looked shaken. It's really that old, Amanda said in wonder. It's seen the entire history of our galaxy. Jake looked at Elena with new understanding. And it chose you because of who you are, not because it wants to control you. The ship could have taken over my mind completely if that's what it wanted, Elena said. Instead, it's sharing its power with me. It's making me stronger so that I can make better choices. Ryan holstered his weapon. So what happens now? Do we go back to Earth and tell everyone that you've bonded with an ancient alien ship? Elena considered the question. Already, she could feel the pull of greater responsibilities. Through Wanderer's sensors, she was becoming aware of human colonies under threat, of alien activities in distant systems, of dangers that no one on Earth even knew existed. We can't go back to our old lives, she said finally. Everything has changed, but maybe that's exactly what needed to happen. The sun was setting on Kepler 442b, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Elena looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Soon she would be out there among them, facing dangers she could barely imagine. But she wouldn't be facing them alone. 2 weeks had passed since Elena bonded with Wanderer. The changes in her were becoming more obvious every day. Her hair had taken on a silver shine, and her eyes now glowed softly in the dark. She barely needed sleep anymore, and when she did rest, she dreamed of distant stars and ancient battles. Jake, Amanda, and Ryan had stayed with her aboard the ship as it traveled through space. They were all struggling to adapt to their new reality. The ship's technology amazed them, but watching Elena transform was harder to accept. Elena stood in the control room, her hand pressed against the central pillar. Through Wanderer's sensors, she could monitor dozens of human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Most were peaceful, going about their daily lives without knowing about the dangers lurking in deep space. Then everything changed in an instant. Pain shot through Elena's mind like lightning. She cried out and stumbled, pulling her hand away from the pillar. Jake rushed to her side, but she pushed him away. "What's happening?" Amanda asked. Elena pressed her hand back to the pillar, despite the pain. Through Wanderer's network of sensors, she could see the horror unfolding at the edge of human space. Ships of living darkness were attacking the colony world of New Haven. The Devourers had arrived sooner than expected. "They're here," Elena whispered. "The Devourers are attacking New Haven." The ship's walls suddenly displayed images of the battle. Black ships with no solid form moved like liquid through space, wrapping around human vessels and crushing them. Where they touched, metal dissolved, and people simply vanished, their life force absorbed into the dark mass. "Dear God," Ryan said, staring at the display. "How many people live on New Haven?" 2 million, Elena said. She could feel each life that was being snuffed out, like candles being blown out one by one. The sensation was overwhelming. "Can we help them?" Jake asked. Elena looked at Wanderer's star charts. New Haven was 3 days away at normal space travel speeds. By the time they arrived, everyone would be dead. "We need to use the full drive," Elena said. Wanderer hesitated in her mind. "The fold drive is dangerous for humans. Your friends may not survive the transition." Elena looked at Jake, Amanda, and Ryan. "The ship can get us there instantly, but the journey might kill you. The human body wasn't designed for that kind of space travel. What about you?" Amanda asked. "I'll survive. The changes to my body will protect me." "But you 3 might not make it," Jake stepped forward. 2 million people are dying right now. We have to try." Ryan nodded. "I didn't become a security officer to play it safe." Amanda was already strapping herself into one of the ship's seats. "Just get us there, Elena." Elena felt a surge of love for her friends. They were willing to risk everything to help strangers they had never met. This was why Wanderer had chosen humanity as worthy of protection. She placed both hands on the pillar and merged her consciousness fully with the ship. The sensation was incredible and terrifying. For a moment, she wasn't Elena Martinez anymore. She was Wanderer, ancient and powerful, carrying the memories of 1,000,000 worlds. The ship folded space around them. Reality twisted and bent in ways that human minds couldn't process. Elena felt her friends' terror and pain as their bodies were compressed and stretched by forces beyond understanding. She held on to their life signs, using her connection with Wanderer to shield them as much as possible. Then they were at New Haven, and Elena was herself again. Jake, Amanda, and Ryan were unconscious, but alive. Their bodies had been pushed to the limit, but they would recover. Elena didn't have time to help them. Through the ship's sensors, she could see the Devourer fleet surrounding New Haven. 3 massive ships of living darkness were already feeding on the planet's surface, draining away all life. Smaller scout ships hunted down fleeing civilian vessels. Elena and Wanderer moved as one being now. The ship's weapons came online, powered by ancient technology that could manipulate the basic forces of the universe. Elena targeted the nearest Devourer ship and fired. A beam of pure energy struck the dark vessel. For a moment, Elena thought they had won easily. Then the Devourer ship absorbed the energy and grew larger. They feed on energy, Wanderer explained. We must use different tactics. Elena understood. She directed the ship's weapons to create a gravity well around one of the Devourer vessels. The artificial gravity crushed the dark ship, but instead of being destroyed, it simply reformed into a new shape. The Devourers noticed their attacker and turned their attention to Wanderer. Elena felt their alien intelligence focusing on her, cold and hungry and utterly without mercy. They recognized what she had become and saw her as a threat. The largest Devourer ship moved toward them, its dark mass rippling with malevolent energy. Elena could sense the millions of life forms that had been consumed to make it grow so large. Each death fed its power. Elena felt rage building inside her. These creatures had no right to exist. They were parasites, feeding on the creativity and hope of younger species. She let that anger flow through her connection with Wanderer, and the ship responded by unveiling weapons it had kept hidden for eons. Reality warped around them as Wanderer deployed technologies that predated most of the galaxy. Elena watched in amazement as the ship created matter from nothing and reshaped space itself into weapons. They fired beams that didn't just destroy atoms, but erased them from existence entirely. The smallest, Devourer ship, was caught in one of these beams and simply ceased to be. Not destroyed, not scattered, but completely removed from reality. The other two Devourers recoiled in fear and anger. Good, Elena thought. Now they know we can hurt them. But the victory came at a cost. Elena could feel the weapons draining both her and Wanderer. Each shot required enormous amounts of energy, and they couldn't maintain this level of attack for long. The two remaining Devourer ships attacked together, moving faster than Elena had thought possible. Dark tendrils reached out to wrap around Wanderer, trying to drain its energy and add it to their mass. Elena poured more of herself into the ship's defenses. She felt her human limitations falling away as she became something truly alien. Her body temperature dropped to near freezing. Her heart slowed to barely 1 beat per minute. Her eyes began to glow with the same light as the ship's hull. Jake woke up just in time to see Elena's transformation accelerating. "Elena," he called out, but she couldn't hear him anymore. She was fighting for the survival of 2 million people and couldn't spare attention for anything else. Elena and Wanderer struck back at the Devourers with everything they had. They created weapons from collapsed stars and shields from crystallized time. The battle raged across the New Haven system, with energy discharges that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Finally, Elena found the weakness she had been looking for. The Devourers were connected to each other through a network of shared consciousness. If she could disrupt that network, they would become vulnerable. She directed Wanderer to fire a specially designed pulse at the connection points between the enemy ships. The pulse didn't carry destructive energy. Instead, it carried something the Devourers had never encountered before: human creativity and hope. The dark ships recoiled as if they had been burned. Elena could feel their confusion and pain as emotions they couldn't understand flooded their consciousness. They had never encountered anything like human imagination before. One of the Devourer ships fled immediately, unable to cope with the alien sensations. The other tried to fight back, but Elena pressed her advantage. She filled the space around it with images of human art, music, and literature. She showed it the beauty of a child's laughter and the power of love between friends. The remaining Devourer ships screamed in frequencies that shattered asteroids, then fled into deep space. Elena watched it go, knowing that it would remember this encounter. The Devourers had just learned that humanity was not easy prey, but the victory had cost Elena dearly. When she finally disconnected from the ship's systems, she could barely remember what it felt like to be human. Her body had changed so much that Jake, Amanda, and Ryan stared at her in shock. "Elena?" Jake whispered. "Is that still you in there?" Elena tried to smile, but her face had become something alien and beautiful. "I'm still me," she said, though. Her voice now carried harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't produce. "But I'm something more now, too." Below them, New Haven was saved. 2 million people would live to see another day. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers would be back, and next time they would be prepared for her tactics. She was no longer human, but she was still fighting for humanity. And that, she decided, was enough. 6 months had passed since the battle at New Haven. Elena stood on the observation deck of Wanderer, looking out at the stars. Her reflection in the transparent metal showed how much she had changed. Her skin now had a pale, silvery quality that seemed to glow with its own light. Her eyes were completely silver, with no trace of their original brown color. When she moved, there was a fluid grace that no human could match. Jake approached carefully. He had learned to move slowly around Elena now. Her enhanced senses could detect the slightest sound or movement, and sudden actions sometimes triggered defensive responses she couldn't control. "The Earth delegation is waiting for your answer," he said quietly. Elena sighed. For weeks, representatives from Earth's government had been demanding that she return home and share Wanderer's technology with human scientists. They wanted to build weapons based on the ship's designs and establish a military force under their control. "They don't understand," Elena said. "Wanderer's technology isn't something you can just copy and mass produce. It requires a living partnership. The ship chooses who it will work with." Jake sat down beside her, though he kept some distance between them. Elena's body temperature had dropped so low that being too close to her was uncomfortable for normal. "Humans, they're scared," Jake said. "The news about the Devourers has reached Earth. People are panicking. They want protection." Elena nodded. She understood their fear, but she also knew that fear could make people do dangerous things. Through Wanderer's network of sensors, she had been monitoring human colonies across the galaxy. Several governments were already trying to build their own versions of alien technology, with disastrous results. "Amanda's latest tests came back," Jake continued. "She says the changes to your DNA are still accelerating. At this rate, you might not be recognizable as human within a year." Elena touched the wall of the ship, feeling Wanderer's consciousness merge with hers. The ship was concerned about her transformation too, but for different reasons. "You are becoming what you were meant to be," Wanderer told her. "But the process is happening faster than expected. Your human genetics are adapting to our bond in ways I did not foresee. Is that bad?" Elena asked. "Not bad, but different. You may develop abilities that neither of us expected. The partnership between us is creating something new." Elena felt a mixture of excitement and fear. She was already capable of things that seemed impossible. She could survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. She could process information faster than any computer. She could sense life forms from vast distances. What else might she become? Alarm sounded throughout the ship. Elena immediately connected with Wanderer's sensors and saw the cause. 3 human military ships were approaching their position, armed with experimental weapons based on salvaged alien technology. "There." "Not here to talk," Elena said. Ryan's voice came over the ship's communication system from the bridge. "Elena, we're being hailed by Admiral Stone from Earthfleet. He's demanding that you surrender Wanderer to military custody." Elena stood up, her movements flowing like water. "Tell the Admiral that I'm coming to speak with him personally." "Elena." "No," Jake said. "Those ships are armed. If they see you in your current state, they might panic and start shooting." Elena looked at her friend with sad, silver eyes. "Jake, they were always going to be afraid of what I've become. The question is whether that fear will make them wise or foolish." She made her way to Wanderer's exit ramp. As she prepared to leave the ship, Amanda and Ryan joined her. "You don't have to do this alone," Amanda said. "We're coming with you." Elena shook her head. "You've all done enough. You've stayed with me through impossible changes and supported me when I needed it most. But this is something I have to handle myself." Ryan checked his weapon one more time. "At least take some protection." "I am the protection now," Elena said. Simply she stepped out of Wanderer and into the vacuum of space. Her transformed body adapted immediately, creating a thin barrier of energy around her that provided air and pressure. She flew toward the human ships under her own power, moving through space as easily as walking through air. The sight of Elena floating in space without a suit caused immediate panic among the military crews. Admiral Stone's face appeared on their communication screens, his expression a mixture of fear and awe. "What are you?" he demanded. "I'm still Elena Martinez," she replied, though her voice now carried the harmonic undertones of Wanderer's communication system. "I'm still human, even if I don't look like it anymore." "You're an abomination," another officer said. "You've let that alien ship corrupt you." Elena felt a flash of anger, but she controlled it. Getting angry would only prove their point about her being dangerous. "I've chosen to become something more than human so that I can protect humanity," she said. "The Devourers are still out there. They'll be back, and when they come, they'll bring more ships and better weapons. Earth's technology isn't advanced enough to stop them." Admiral Stone leaned forward. "Then share the alien technology with us. Let our scientists study it. We can build fleets of ships like yours." "It doesn't work that way," Elena explained patiently. "Wanderer isn't just a machine. It's a living being with its own thoughts and feelings. It chooses its partners carefully. You can't force it to bond with someone else." "Then we'll take it apart and figure out how it works," Stone said. Elena's eyes flared brighter. The space around her began to shimmer with energy. "No, you won't." The human ships immediately raised their shields and powered their weapons. Elena could see the fear in the crew's faces. They were terrified of her, and that terror was making them aggressive. "Stand down, Elena," Stone ordered. "That's a direct command from Earth government." Elena almost laughed. "I don't take orders from Earth government anymore, Admiral. I have responsibilities that go beyond any single world or nation." To prove her point, Elena gestured toward the nearest military ship. Without touching it, she caused its weapon systems to simply stop working. The advanced alien alloys in their experimental guns recognized her authority and refused to function. "You see," Elena said, "the technology you're trying to use against me came from civilizations that built safeguards into their creations. These weapons won't harm someone who carries the proper authorization codes." Admiral Stone's face was red with fury and frustration. "You've betrayed your own species." "I've evolved beyond my species," Elena corrected. "But I haven't abandoned them. Everything I do is to protect humanity's future." She flew closer to Stone's ship, and the Admiral involuntarily stepped back from his screen. "Let me make something clear," Elena said. "I could disable all 3 of your ships right now without harming a single person aboard them. I could take them apart molecule by molecule and reassemble them however I chose. But I won't, because I'm still fighting for the same things I always fought for: knowledge, understanding, and the protection of innocent life." Elena turned to address all 3 ships simultaneously. "Go back to Earth. Tell them that Elena Martinez is gone, but something better has taken her place. Tell them that a guardian watches over humanity now, someone who has the power to stand against threats they can't even imagine." Admiral Stone made one last attempt to assert authority. "The people of Earth deserve to know what happened to you. They deserve to have a say in their own protection." Elena's expression softened slightly. "The people of Earth will be protected whether they know it or not. but they don't get to vote on how I use my abilities. That responsibility is mine alone now. She began to fly back toward Wanderer. Go home, Admiral. Take care of Earth and the inner colonies. Leave the dangerous frontiers to me. As the military ships reluctantly departed, Elena returned to Wanderer. Jake, Amanda, and Ryan were waiting for her. So what happens now? Amanda asked. Elena looked out at the vast expanse of space filled with human colonies, alien threats and wonders yet to be discovered. Now I do what I was meant to do. I become the guardian that humanity needs. Jake stepped forward. Do you want us to go back to Earth with those ships? Elena considered the question. Her friends were already showing signs of change from their extended exposure to Wanderer's energy. Nothing as dramatic as her own transformation, but they were becoming more than ordinary humans, too. That's your choice, she said. But if you stay, you should know that you'll keep changing. You'll become something new, just like I have. Amanda was the first to answer. I've learned more about the universe in the past 6 months than in my entire previous career. I'm not ready to stop now, Ryan nodded. Someone needs to keep you grounded in your humanity. I volunteer for that job. Jake smiled. Besides, who's going to document the adventures of humanity's first guardian? Elena felt warmth spread through her transformed heart. She might no longer be human in the traditional sense, but she was still surrounded by the qualities that made humanity worth protecting: loyalty, courage, curiosity, and hope. Through Wanderer's sensors, she detected a signal from deep space. Another ancient ship was awakening, drawn by the energy signature of their partnership. Soon, Elena realized she might not be the only guardian watching over the younger races of the galaxy. Come on, she said to her friends. We have work to do. Wanderer turned toward the galactic rim, where threats and wonders waited in equal measure.